Your paycheck finally goes up. For a few days, everything feels different. You breathe a little easier, you celebrate. Maybe you order dinner instead of cooking. Maybe you finally replace that old phone. Maybe you tell yourself, things are going to be easier now. Then a few months pass, and somehow, you're checking your bank account just as often as before. The raise arrived. So why didn't the relief stay? That's the question that catches a lot of people off guard. Because what changes after a raise isn't always your financial situation. First, it's your expectations. And once those expectations start moving, something else quietly follows them. By the end of this video, you'll see why earning more can sometimes create the strange feeling of having less, and why the biggest change often happens long before your bank account notices. Money problems don't always disappear when income goes up. Sometimes they simply change shape. Think about someone who's been driving the same car for years. Then they get promoted. Suddenly, that car doesn't just feel old. It feels like it doesn't match who they are anymore. Nothing happened to the car. It still starts every morning. It still gets them to work. But emotionally, it feels different. The same thing happens with apartments, clothes, vacations, even the coffee you buy on the way to work. A raise can quietly change what feels normal. And once normal changes, your spending often follows without feeling like a decision at all. Not because you're irresponsible, because people naturally adapt to improvements. The problem is, our expectations often adapt faster than our gratitude. Then something even stranger begins. Your new salary slowly stops feeling new. The first paycheck feels exciting. The fifth feels ordinary. The 12th feels expected. That doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It's simply how our minds often respond to repeated experiences. The excitement fades because the raise becomes part of everyday life. And once that happens, your brain starts looking for the next improvement. Maybe it's a nicer apartment, a newer laptop, a better neighborhood, a more expensive gym. Not because any of those things are bad, but because yesterday's upgrade becomes today's baseline. And when the baseline keeps moving, the feeling of finally having enough keeps moving too. That's why the people earning very different salaries can both honestly feel financially stretched. They're not comparing income to survival anymore. They're comparing income to their new version of normal. Now add something else to the picture. The people around you. Maybe your coworkers all upgraded their cars after promotions. Maybe friends started taking weekend trips you've never considered before. Maybe your social media feed suddenly feels filled with people living the lifestyle you think your new salary should provide. No one has to pressure you. No one even has to say a word. Sometimes simply seeing what's around us quietly changes what feels reasonable. A vacation that once felt extravagant now feels average. A restaurant that used to be reserved for birthdays becomes a Friday night habit. Without realizing it, your definition of comfortable slowly gets more expensive. And here's what makes this so difficult to notice. Each individual choice feels small. A slightly nicer apartment, slightly better furniture, slightly more food delivery, a few extra subscriptions. Nothing seems dramatic on its own, but together, they quietly build a lifestyle that's just as expensive as your old one felt. Except now, it requires your higher income just to maintain. This is where many people expect the story to end. Just spend less. But that misses something much deeper, because the money isn't always the real problem. The feeling is, sometimes a raise doesn't just increase income, it increases pressure. Pressure to look successful, pressure to reward years of hard work, pressure to prove the promotion was worth it, pressure to finally enjoy life after years of waiting. And those pressures can quietly turn every raise into a new starting line instead of a finish line. That's where the cycle becomes difficult to see, because from the outside, it looks like financial progress. But internally, the finish line keeps moving, and that's exactly where the psychology becomes far more interesting. And here's the part that rarely gets talked about. The feeling of being rich isn't created only by how much money comes in. It's also shaped by how much your life now demands from that money. Picture two ladders. One is your income. The other is your lifestyle. At first, your income climbs higher. It feels like you're finally getting ahead. But then the lifestyle ladder quietly starts climbing too. A larger apartment, a newer car, more streaming services, more convenience, more monthly payments, more expectations. Eventually, the second ladder catches up, not because your raise disappeared, because your obligations grew to meet it. That's why someone can earn far more than they did 5 years ago and still feel like they're waiting for the next paycheck. The paycheck got bigger, so did the life depending on it. Now, think back to the first few days after your raise. Remember that feeling of relief? It wasn't just about the money, it was about possibility. For a brief moment, your income had grown, but your lifestyle hadn't caught up yet. That gap felt like freedom. You had choices, you had breathing room, but little by little, that space filled itself. A payment here, a subscription there, a weekend trip, a nicer habit that slowly became an everyday habit. None of those decisions felt dramatic. That's exactly why they're so powerful. Freedom often disappears quietly, not in one expensive purchase, but in dozens of small ones that slowly become permanent. And once they're permanent, they stop feeling optional. Here's the twist that changes how many people see their finances. The goal isn't simply earning more, it's protecting the gap between what you earn and what you need to spend, because that gap buys something money itself can't. Options. The ability to handle an emergency without panic. The confidence to leave a toxic job. The flexibility to take a better opportunity. The chance to say no when everyone else feels trapped. Ironically, the person earning a little less but keeping more freedom may feel wealthier than someone with a much higher salary and much higher obligations. That's why earning more doesn't automatically create financial peace. Peace often comes from having choices, not just having income. So the next time your paycheck grows, celebrate it. You've earned that moment. But before you immediately upgrade your life, pause. Ask yourself one simple question. Am I buying something that will genuinely improve my life? Or am I just trying to make my new income feel normal? That single question won't stop every unnecessary expense, but it can slow down the automatic cycle before it quietly reshapes your entire lifestyle. And that may be the difference between feeling richer and simply becoming more expensive to maintain. The strange truth is that earning more isn't what makes people feel poorer. It's allowing every raise to quietly redefine what enough means. Once enough keeps moving, satisfaction keeps moving with it. And that's why the people earning completely different salaries can both believe they're only one more raise away from finally feeling comfortable, only to discover the feeling never arrives, because the destination was moving the whole time. So I'm curious, what's one thing that became a normal expense in your life that used to feel like a luxury? And if this changed the way you think about raises, the next video explains why your brain actually resists saving money even when you know it's the smart thing to do. Once you understand that psychological tug of war, you'll never look at your paycheck the same way again.